Welcome, everyone, to Wednesday evening Clear Mountain live stream and Zoom session. Today, we're blessed to be joined by Swami Atmavidyananda Giri, and I've been assured I am saying his name correctly. Swami,
Yeah.
it's so great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, and Swami and I met for the first time last spring when Guruji was visiting in Seattle for an interfaith event. Is that correct, Swami?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Well, I was hoping to introduce you, and then I get to ask some questions, and hopefully this is a special first of growing friendship between our communities. Swami's usually based in a ashram near Seattle, and I think there's immense resonance between the two traditions and much we can learn. So if I could begin just with a brief introduction.
Please.
Swami Atmavidyananda Giri, a senior monk in the lineage of Paramahamsa Hariharananda and Paramahamsa Prajnanananda, currently Vice President of Kriya Yoga Institute, has been tireless teaching Kriya Yoga to sincere seekers since 2004. Swami Atmavidyananda was born Arvind Joshi in a traditional Brahmin family in 1971 in Bhopal, India. At an early age, the spiritual environment and guidance of his parents nurtured in him a sincere quest for God. Upon completion of a degree in mechanical engineering, he met Paramahamsa Hariharananda and, with his blessing, was initiated into Kriya Yoga in 1994. Under the direction of his master, he traveled outside India in 2006 to teach Kriya Yoga in the West, learning to speak 6 languages in order to connect more intimately with those he meets. He was ordained as a monk in the Giri monastic order in 2009 and given the name Swami Atmavidyananda, which means bliss of self-knowledge. While primarily dedicated to the cause of Kriya Yoga, he is also an expert in astrology, Eastern and Western scriptures, other ancient yogic practices, and Vedic ritual ceremonies. As a resident monk of the Kriya Yoga Institute, he resides in the Kriya Dhyana Mandir, Temple of Meditation, in Monroe, Washington. So, Swami, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And if we could begin, just would you mind what is Kriya Yoga and what drew you to it? What was your path to ordination, if we can begin there?
Okay, thank you. First, I humbly bow to one supreme reality and all the saints and sages of all times and places and all the masters. I humbly bow to living presence of divinity in each one of you. As your question is about Kriya Yoga, so Kriya Yoga is the most ancient and scientific technique of meditation, which predates the Vedic era. And if we look into the history of the scriptures, like the oldest scriptures are the Vedas. In the Rig Veda commentary, there are some mantras mentioned about the Kriya Yoga techniques. So it's 12,000, more than 12,000 years old, and we have references in ancient scriptures like 8,000, 10,000, 9,000, 5,000 years old, at least 35 ancient authentic scriptures where Kriya Yoga and the techniques are mentioned. It is a very simple technique we practice, which is based on mainly the breath regulation, pranayama, and some concentration techniques, which is very easy to practice for any layman because we all are breathing. And I think this is the very common factor between your practices and our practice, that it is mostly based on the breath, which is the link or key to reach the summit of realization.
I think that's true. And what is in Kriya Yoga, what's conceived of as the summit of realization? What is enlightenment? And is that even the term?
As we practice the path of yoga, which is Kriya Yoga, so in path of yoga, the highest summit or the goal to reach is, we call it samadhi. Samadhi is actually, it is a Sanskrit word, sama or samahita dhi. Dhi means intellect, and samahit means completely absorbed or become one with. So when all our senses, all our mind and body consciousness, we transcend them and we establish ourselves in the real identity, going beyond all these conditionings. So that experience of state, higher conscious state, we call it samadhi, and that is the goal of our life and our practice, also to reach that state through our practice.
And Swami, I assume that part of your path towards robes or monastic life was catalyzed by encounters with people you felt had achieved that state or neared it. So would you be able to speak a bit to what drew you to enter a life devoted towards awakening?
I began this journey much earlier because, as I heard from my parents, very interestingly, I heard from my parents that they wanted a son after 5 daughters. And so they went to their realized master back in India, householder yogi, and asked for a blessing. So he said, okay. First, he said, why you are asking for a son? Because there is no difference between sons and daughters. But my father was a little bit more adamant that being Brahmin, he said, no, I want a son. So after that blessing, next year I was born. I don't know what happened. Nobody told me, but I got a beautiful spiritual environment from my parents at home, and reading the spiritual books by his master and following some practices from the age of 5, it just came to my mind that this is my path. I had to become a monk. It was very strongly in my mind, and I can say maybe it is the past life samskara, some unfinished work. So that led me to think about this path, and I just followed. Very fortunately, God and the realized masters helped me. I found a spiritual mentor at the early age of 18 when I completed my high school and went to my undergraduation. He guided me for certain yogic practices, and then he brought me to Kriya Yoga himself. So I didn't search for anything. It was like all blessings of divine.
It found you.
Yeah, maybe destine.
And what was, I mean, I think many will know your lineage most from Autobiography of a
Right.
Yogi, which is such a famous book. Your teacher you found at 18, was that Paramahamsa? Um, and what drew you to him? What was or do you have any sort of stories or tales of what inspired you towards that teacher or towards your teachers?
It was, I just met coincidentally with the teacher because my elder sister wanted to have some consultation about the Vedic astrology, and he is supposed to be a very good spiritual Vedic astrologer. I was just accompanying my sister, and he asked, "Do you have any question?" And I said, "Yes." I had question when I will become a monk, and then he said, "You are already a monk. Your whole birth chart tells that." So and but that meeting, I felt that he is not just astrologer, he is a very spiritual person, which came true where I experienced. And then he told, don't worry, I will guide you. So then he told me actually that I'm destined for Kriya Yoga, because initially I was thinking maybe I should follow the path of Tantra for Kundalini awakening, because that's what I had also studied and did little bit of practice. But then he said, no, you are for Kriya Yoga. So he himself personally brought me to my master, Paramahamsa Hariharananda Ji, got me initiated, and he said, now you are on the right path. So it just
Do you
happened.
have any stories to share with us of these masters you've encountered, like particular tales of loving kindness that you found especially moving, one or two, or moments that really have sort of stuck out in your memory and life as landmarks of faith with these teachers?
Uh, my spiritual mentor also has some yogic powers. So I was amazed to see as a student that how could he tell things which are happening somewhere like thousands of miles away, or he could see and tell. Later on, he told me the secret of these. In very simple word, if I share with you, once I asked him that, how do you know about this? What person is thinking? How do you know that this particular object is placed in this shelf at this place? So he could tell very clearly. He said that if you know your breath, you will be able to know what is happening in the entire universe, because the same prana which we are taking in through our breath, the same prana is all pervading in the entire universe. So that was the key. However, and I met my spiritual master who initiated me into Kriya Yoga, my master Paramahamsa Hariharananda Ji. When I met him, he was 87 years old, and he has attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the highest state, and demonstrated this state many times, like hundreds of times in the West, in India also. And once when I met him first time, he greeted me. He was lying down on the couch, smiling with a bright face like a 1,000 watts neon lamp. That so much peace and love and wisdom is emanating from his face. And he just told me that it was your strong desire, that's why you have come to me. And then he repeated two sentences which I had spoken to my elder sister, who is also a monk now. uh, 3 months ago I had told something, and that was in India, and at that time my master was in USA. But he repeated, you were telling to your sister these sentences at that time. I said, oh God, I cannot hide anything from these masters. They know every single thing. So that was very amazing first meeting, and I got a beautiful some instructions from him. The humility, the compassion, the love which I have seen in my masters, like Paramahamsa Hariharananda Maharaj, and the current master also, who gave me sannyas diksha, monkhood, Paramahamsa Prajnanananda, who you have met him in the interfaith. Amazing. I can say, sir, that in many traditions I have seen highly exalted or realized masters also back in India, but combination of a few things like wisdom, humor, love, compassion, and same time you cannot find everything in one person. It's very rare. A person who is wise, who is realized, who is also, down to earth with people, and very humble and forgiving, compassionate. So it was amazing with these masters in our lineage, and that was the key that I found. No, no, this is the right place and lineage to follow.
I remember I was watching a video you did on Guru Dev, I believe, and you referenced these teachings that he spoke to, saying you must be humbler than a blade of grass, patient as a tree, give
Yes.
up the sense of self, and sing
Mhm.
constantly the name of God. Are these
Right.
who was that teacher, and are these teachings that kind of form a core of your practice?
Yes, that's exactly what my master Paramahamsa Hariharananda and current master, they have given example by living that type of life. And that this is a beautiful teaching actually from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In his one of his writings, Shikshashtakam, he has written, Pranadapi Suni Chena, means you should be humbler than the blade of grass. Then you should be tolerant like a tree, more than that, and all the time remember name of God and help people in many ways. So this is what I have seen in this master's life. They have lived like this, they are living like that, and that's what we want to follow, that this is the real purpose of life.
And what does that humility look like in someone? Because I've noticed that that seems to be something you emphasized again and again, is to be humble. What does that
Mhm.
mean to you, and how have you seen it?
I have experienced, and even everybody on the spiritual path also knows this very well, that ego is the barrier to our spiritual progress, and we have to transcend that. And the counterpart of ego is that humility. The moment we become more humble, then we are qualified to follow this path, and only then we can progress. Otherwise, it's like all the time, if my mind is telling, I'm trying to follow my mind, but I'm not sent that. So ego is the good for us, which is the inner instrument given by God, but we have to transcend that also. Otherwise we are limited to our own self, but we have to expand. Then only we can experience that highest state, which is oneness. My own consciousness is everywhere. So humility is, I have seen one incident I might be I would like to share, that how these masters, they don't preach us, they don't teach us only, but they give the example by living like that. I was my master, current master, Paramahansi Guruji, we call him Shri Guruji. So he visited Miami ashram for a retreat. While returning on Miami airport, on the aisle, there was a monk standing with a couple of people, and we were just walking. Suddenly, Guruji stopped, and he went straightway to the monk and bowed flatly. And so I followed him, but other people were standing, and after they had some chat, and he's a monk from Ramakrishna Mission. So in the discussion, it came to know that who are you, like that, where are you, Swamiji, from? And after that, when we walked before boarding, Shri Guruji looked at all of us and he said, "What did you learn today?" And what did you see? So we said, all of us said that we saw that there was a monk and Guruji went and bowed to him. And it was a bowing flat. And he said that, then what did you learn? Your Guru has bowed to a monk, paying respect, and you are standing like a tree, so egotistic. Don't you have any humility? This is not what I have taught you. So, I mean, these are some examples. He didn't know the monk, but just because a person was wearing this orange clothes as a monk, he completely bowed. And he's a realized master, no matter who the other person is. But this is how he has taught us.
I was very struck when he visited Seattle. He'd taken a vow of silence for the past 3 years, I believe,
Right.
and he each time he greeted each religious representative on the stage in the
Mhm,
completely appropriate way for that lineage. He gave a
mhm,
hug to one with the Buddhist monastic. He made Anjali and gave a gift. It was a kind of impressive testament to this ability to bend like grass, like you said, to the
mhm, mhm.
moment and to the situation.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that, Swami. Well, I want to let, if people want to type in questions for Swami, you may into the chat. But I wanted to ask a few more questions. One is, in terms of giving up the ego and relying more on this deeper intuition and consciousness, you speak about the purpose of life and that calling in us.
Mhm,
How does one know which voice is which? How, especially when there's so much static and noise in people's lives right now and so much division and conflict, how do you recommend people in this day and era know which voice to listen to, which voice is their deeper self?
Yeah, in our practice, we are taught to practice surrender to divine. Now, it can be um, any form or formless, whichever, because we in Kriya Yoga, we have complete freedom. Actually, Kriya Yoga is not a religion because it's not based on any religious thing. It is just simple technique, a yogic technique based on breath regulation. So, but yes, there is some supreme reality, whether you agree, don't agree, but there is someone. So that is that you can say even pure consciousness, higher consciousness, super conscious. This is just the words. These are words. So believe in something, have that faith and surrender to that, and then the guidance comes from within, and that is the real intuition. Otherwise, most of the time it is our own intellect, our own mind, which is suggesting something and we think, oh, we know, but we really don't know anything. So unless we surrender that, okay, I am here at your feet, or and the best way is to surrender at the feet of the guru or master, because we need someone tangible, or someone with whom we can relate, see, or talk, or so that becomes the medium for that supreme consciousness to surrender. So we surrender to guru, serve the guru, because humility comes only through service. The moment we serve,
Hmm.
that's why the charity is the part of all religions, all kinds of religions in the world. And service to master, service to humanity is the biggest service, because service to humanity, service to nature, it is nothing but service to God Himself. Because
Hmm.
God is, we all believe that God is omnipresent. It's a different thing that we don't practice it, but just we believe that. So we have to practice and to serve, because normally people think that serving is only to serve the poor, serve the sick people. That's just one part, but serving, there are so many different avenues to contribute towards the creation, and that brings actually the humility in us.
How does one do that when, we have so many people, they touch teachings, they begin to intuit this deeper calling in their lives and associated with these ancient practices, and yet they have a life that's already packed full of a job they only nominally can endure, numerous children, a Netflix account. How
Mhm.
do you how do you bring this sense of complete surrender and a devotion into a life like that, such that it feels commensurate with the scope of the goal?
It's a good question. I agree. It's, surrender doesn't happen in one day. It's the most difficult thing, because mind always plays tricks. The steps for surrender or progress is that, first thing that accept we have to accept that there is some supreme reality. We have to accept that, yes, I have a goal. We have to accept that, yes, I have something which is missing and I have to complete it.
Mm.
And first accept, then we should have belief, because that is the next step, that there is something, let me believe in. And once we believe, then only we can have some experience, because belief can be blind belief. For belief, you don't need to inquire. Someone tells that there is some heavy rain in Seattle today, and you are not going there to check. You just accept because the person told. So you just, yeah, I believe that you are right. So it doesn't need any inquiry or experience directly. But as we believe and we start some practice, something that, okay, Guru said do this, I believe and I'm doing this,
Mm.
then we develop faith, because faith comes through experience, through knowledge, and through some experience. And as we get faith, it becomes strong, and that leads us to complete surrender. Okay, it's not my will, whatever you say, I'll do that. So it goes through all these stages, and it's not really so easy, but yes, one has to take step by step and move forward.
Thank you, Swami. With the day-to-day practice of meditation, I know there are techniques very common in Buddhist practice, such as loving kindness, specifically spreading loving kindness to oneself and then the beings around one, and so on. There's following the breath at the nose or even in different areas of the body.
Mhm.
What are, but many people do hit walls with these techniques. What are some kind of concrete meditative techniques in Kriya Yoga you found be effective for modern people and their proclivity to think a lot?
Mhm. Thank you for this question. Actually, if we see the classical text on yoga, or the various scriptures, when we read, there are almost like 10 classical breathing techniques. We call them pranayam. Actually, it's not just breathing, but it is pranayam, which is a completely different meaning. So each technique gives us some physical, mental benefit, intellectual benefit. But Kriya is completely different. It is based on the subtle breath. It's not based on some physical breath like abdominal breathing, clavicular breathing, or thoracic breathing, or watching the gross breath, but it is more subtle and internalized breath, which we practice through some scientific techniques, so which are taught only after the initiation, we call diksha. So after the initiation purification things, and then we teach these very simple techniques. So we all know that I can tell you the very basic principle of these techniques is that Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is the classical text on yoga, in that second chapter, second verse, it is written that Chale Vate Chalam Chittam. I'll translate for our audience just in English from Sanskrit. It says that if our breath is restless, our mind is also restless, because breath and mind, they are correlated and causally connected. And in our day-to-day life also we see that when we are angry, our breath is very rapid, 40 breath in 1 minute. When we are very happy and peaceful, 8 to 9 breath, and it can be measured easily on day-to-day basis. When we are doing some heavy work, the breath is like 24 breath per minute. We have the data even. So the breath and mind, they're correlated. So what we need, if we really want to slow down the mind or pacify the mind, we have to work on the breath, which is much easier than working on mind, because mind is such a subtle instrument. We have no control over that. But since it is connected with the breath, we can work on the breath. We can take long, deep breath. We can take shallow or short breath. We can hold the breath even. So with the breath regulation, we regulate the mind. And as the breath becomes slow, feeble, with these scientific practices of pranayam, which we teach, we transcend the mind. When means we go to the state that there is no thought. Initially many thoughts, then selected thoughts, then one thought, because we have some concentration techniques. So step by step we move, and then it takes us to that transcendental state where our mind, there's no more mind. Mind is there but dormant. So we transcend the time, causation, body consciousness. So all this conditioning, we remain in completely state of nothingness, like we also practice in Buddhism, or we can say formless state where we experience
Does
bliss.
that, oh, sorry.
So, so these are the very simple techniques, and anyone can learn and practice.
Is that state of formlessness, is that enlightenment, and is it forever? Like when one encounters that, is one purified, or is there a backsliding?
It goes actually both hand in hand, because the moment we practice these techniques, it also purifies the mind, it also purifies the heart or our chakras, and then it simultaneously it happens. So we work on both sides.
And
And we transcend, and this formless state which we experience, we call it meditation, which is actually the definition of meditation is no thought. So we reach there, and that is the beginning, or you can say the glimpse of the self-realization. So that's a stepping stone. When we are established into that after a long and regular practice, then we experience much deeper state, which is called samadhi. And in Yoga Sutra Patanjali, there are different stages are mentioned: savitarka, nirvitarka, or savikalpa samadhi, sampragyata, asampragyat samadhi. So different levels or stages we go through and remain there.
And this is very interesting, Swami. And this actually links to a question that Mary Webster is asking in the chat of, Swami, do you see different types of samadhi, or is it always the same state? And in the Buddhist conception, there are, as you know, these states of different refined concentration. But then there's the application of insight, where one perceives dukkha, and also the changeability of the conditioned realm with that mind strengthened and nourished by samadhi. And that insight's what breaks one through to ultimate enlightenment. With this paradigm, when you do reach those really higher states of samadhi, is it a thing that just slowly alters the mind until it becomes enlightened on its own, or is there a shift at one point after a refined state has been reached?
Though it is actually gradual progression. And in our practice, we have experienced, and lots, hundreds of people also have experienced that as we start practice, this refinement starts, and our mind, which is mostly limited, that my home, my family, my job, then suddenly the shifts happens. It starts like expanding the domain from myself to my family to my surrounding my, then slowly it expands to the country, and then entire universe becomes one family. So it's not that we have to put extra effort for that, but it simultaneously happens because meditation expands our consciousness. So our mind also becomes very expanded, and more understanding is developed that it's not me, I'm just a little part, but it's all myself and this entire creation, which is the presence of creator himself. So that link, slowly we start joining the dots, and we reach that state. So it's refinement is the part of cleansing, and refinement both are simultaneously happening with these scientific techniques.
And with rebirth, there's this sense of a dot jumping to a new dot to a new dot, to use a really simple paradigm. As you speak about
Mhm.
the mind expanding to encompass more and more dots, quote unquote, until the mind is as large as God, in this conception. Is that
Mhm.
the end point? Does rebirth end for one who is enlightened, or do they enter a state where they continue to be reborn, but somehow exist also above or apart from samskara?
Uh, the reason for rebirth for any soul is the past samskaras, or we call it the prarabdha karma. So long as we have those impressions, that samskaras pending, one has to come back, because what, as per the law of karma, it says that whatever we do, whether it is physical, mental, or verbal action, it has some result, and it leaves some impression behind, which are stored in our subconscious and unconscious mind. So unless we experience those impressions, we exhaust them on this physical body, they cannot be destroyed, because there is no way. Once they are there, we have to get the fruits of action. By meditation, especially kriya technique, it is possible to destroy these samchit karma, which are accumulated over many lifetimes, because they are in the backpack, yet they have not yet given fruits. But the present karma, which is prarabdha karma, we can completely destroy, and by working out in a much less intensity and easy way, and the backpack like sanchit can be completely destroyed in one lifetime by practice of kriya yoga. So once we have no more impressions to bring us back into the future lifetimes, then there is complete liberation. We are not reborn anymore, and that happens when one attains the samadhi state, as per the yoga, or especially kriya yoga.
And that's what's called samadhi, or is there a certain name for that samadhi?
Right. But interestingly, it's not the end of the journey because once we leave this physical body, we are liberated when there is no more impression to be reborn. But still, the subtle or astral body and causal body are existing, and they still go in the higher planes of existence, different locus, and there the meditation or sadhana continues to shred off these causal and subtle bodies also, and then finally the pure soul is merged into the supreme reality at some
And
point.
that
Of course, I cannot tell you when, but I can tell you what we are doing here.
and that oversoul, or in this kind of paradigm, that is beyond and encompasses all.
Yes.
Thank you. I remember an autobiography of a yogi, he speaks about being visited by his teacher, who speaks about being born in one
Mhm.
of these astral realms. And it struck me as completely the same as in Buddhist cosmology, the realm of the non-returners, the anagamis, these astral realms where people just
Exactly.
practice Dhamma together. That's
Right.
fascinating, Swami. Thank you. I think we have some other questions.
Now please go ahead.
Swami, was your long vow of silence taken in solitude, or were you quiet out in the world? Were there unexpected benefits of long-term silence? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Let me clarify that it was the long vow of silence by my master, not by me. And during his vow of silence, he was not in the world, he was completely in seclusion. And then he came out after 2 years approximately, but he still maintained the vow of silence. Only he gives some satsang or a lecture on some scriptural topics. Rest of the time he is still maintaining the silence and more secluded. So he spends time with people only during one class or satsang
And
session.
that's Guruji, correct? Am
Guruji,
I correct in
right?
thinking, I remember when we first visited the ashram in Seattle, you all didn't know where he was. He was somewhere in India and he just
Yeah.
disappeared into somewhere, and you were like, we don't know where he is, but he hopefully pops up again soon and comes back. Does he just disappear for
That's
periods?
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct, because he just told before going to seclusion that I will be in silence and seclusion, and you don't need to contact me. I'll come back when I feel.
And Guru, Swami, in India, many of us who have gone there, it's a unique environment completely in that the mundane and the dark in the world is so mixed with the bright as well. It's the most rich place I've ever been in so many ways, and it can be very overwhelming for someone. Do you
Mhm.
find you miss it? And were you able to really find all these kind of, are there spiritual masters sort of existing within that realm right now, that in India as well?
Yes, you are very right, sir, that India is you can find contrast in many ways in India. It's a strange but beautiful country. I miss the company of some holy people in the West, especially. But I'm fortunate that I'm in contact with some holy people like you all. So it's very consolation for me. But yes, for holy company, sometimes I miss, because there are so many sadhus, so many saints and sages from different traditions, and we learn a lot and in their company. But yes, on the other hand, I have accepted this life. My master has told, I'm just following that. So for me, India or in any part of the world, because for me, my master is always with me. And it is not the words I'm speaking, it is my own inner feeling. I have always felt his presence and guidance. So it doesn't matter whether we are. And my master has taught me, I'm trying to practice to see God in all. So, whatever we perceive in the entire creation, no matter where we are, no matter whom we are talking to, it is the core principle of Kriya Yoga, Kriya and Ya, to perceive divinity in every activity and every person, every breath. So, we are fine with that.
Thank you, Swami. We have another question here. How would Kriya Yoga practice relate to yoga as commonly conceptualized and practiced in the US?
In USA, people are so much interested and very welcoming about the yoga practices. Uh, and Kriya Yoga has been growing very well, not only in North America, but more in South America also. People are welcoming. Let me clarify one thing, many forums I had told also before. Uh, Kriya Yoga is not a religion. And, especially there is a very big difference between any religion and yoga. In yoga and religion, I'll tell you what is the difference. Any religion we talk in the world is definitely based on one element which is called faith. You have to have faith in something. It may be abstract, it may be some form, it may be guru, it may be your own self, but you have to have faith. But yoga is not based on faith. Yoga is experimental, experiential. You just learn, practice, and you experience it. Whether you believe in God or no, no problem. So that's why USA is a beautiful country which has welcomed people from all the different areas, and especially the spirituality and yoga is very popular here. And I'm happy that people have accepted here wholeheartedly. Look, it's not related to any community, country, or place.
Mm.
Wisdom is for everybody, for the entire humanity, and we all are one family.
Mm.
So just coming from one room to other room.
I like that way of putting it. Is the quieting of your mind where there is no thinking jhana, and I think you'd call it dhyana.
Yeah, dhyana actually, yes. Dhyana is that state where there is no thought.
Mm.
Of course, it's not easy, but yes, some scientific technique, as I told you about the breath, it takes us to the state where there's no mind. It doesn't mean that mind has died. Mind becomes dormant, just like in our deep sleep state. The
Mm.
mind is there, but it is not playing, it is dormant.
Mm.
In dream state, still mind plays, subconscious mind. But in deep sleep state, the mind is dormant. Our causal body is active only. The
Mm.
physical body is all not active. So this dhyana means it is turiya, the fourth state, transcendental state, where you transcend even that state of uh, mind.
It,
And so in that state you actually receive jnana. If you talk about dhyana, so dhyana is that state which gives you the experience of who you are, and that is the jnana, the real knowledge, that you know your real identity.
mm. And what is your real identity?
Real identity, that we are not limited this body or mind, but we are this essential soul, which is the pure form of energy.
Mm.
I can say that for a layman, I can say that if we talk about the supreme reality, it's like an ocean,
Mm.
and we are just drop of that ocean. But if you take a drop of water from the ocean, the physical and chemical properties are same, you can analyze.
Mm.
So also God is known as Sat Chit Ananda. In Vedanta and Yoga also we accept it. Sat means eternity, truth. Chit means pure consciousness, and Ananda, the bliss. So that is the attribute given, and the soul has the same attribute. So
Mm.
once we start that feeling that and experiencing little by little, we expand, and then we say, oh, it's not just me, it is I and he, they, we are one. Like in Christianity, people say that, and when Jesus said that I and my Father are one, that's
Mm.
the state of union. So apparently there is separation in the beginning because of our own individual mind, but when we are connecting slowly, then we realize that it is the same consciousness playing everywhere.
Thank you. And Swami, I'm curious. At the end of autobiography, no, at the end of his life, uh, Yogananda famously designated the night that he would be leaving his body, and I believe it was a.
Mhm.
Can you tell that story, that kind of account? And it's a common practice among masters in your tradition to designate a time of death. What is that practice and why?
When a person gets nirvikalpa samadhi, in our path we call it the highest state, nirvikalpa samadhi, the person is free from karmic bond, and the person is established in knowledge, so they know when they are going
Mm.
to leave the body. So it's kind of, you can say, that graceful conscious exit from the body, so they know very well. And because achieving nirvikal samadhi, they already practice it, that for short period of time they enter into that state. And my master demonstrated, like Paramahamsa Yogananji also, that when he was telling the audience, even including the medical doctors, team of doctors with all their equipments, they put on the body, and then he said, I'm going to enter nirvikal samadhi. And just he concentrates maybe less than a minute or so, he enters into that. And when doctors check, there is no pulse, there's no heartbeat, and they say that he is
Mm.
clinically dead. And after half an hour he comes back. So Paramahansa Yogananji did that, my master did that, hundreds of time demonstrated. So they already know when the time comes. So that's why Paramahansa Yogananji had predicted, and my master also had given the hint that he has this much time. Even some of our monks in our lineage clearly told. Forget about the monks, even those who are spiritual householder people, including my father and uncle, clearly told that. I have 1 month left. And I said, "Oh, how can you say you have no disease, you're perfectly fine?" No, he said, "No, I know. Only exactly after that time they leave." So when a person's mind is not playing, and that they are having this intuition, because they are more connected with the cosmic source, so they have this knowledge that when the time comes, I think that anyone who goes deeper into the practice and slowly expands his consciousness can easily know or end that,
Thank you.
and it's not painful anymore.
No, that's there's so many interesting resonances here. The Buddha designated the time of his death or predicted it, and this state of samadhi where the pulse stops seems very similar to what we call the fourth jhana, where all breath and movement and vitality seem completely quieted. So I really appreciate you bringing up these kind of similarities. It's fascinating to hear. And Swami, I do think we have to wrap things up. It's been 45 minutes, but
Sure.
I'm so grateful that you joined us. I know you're teaching a retreat in Chicago right now, and you still managed to hop on Zoom or the live stream with us. How much longer are you there for?
I'm here until this Sunday, and Monday I'll be going back to Seattle for another week before I head for the next journey.
Okay. Well, Swami, thank you so much for joining us. Really.
Thank you so much to you and all the holy people in your monastery. My humble pranams to them. And also, I'm thankful to all the audience for this beautiful opportunity, and hope that we will continue interacting with each other and work together, because we are on the same path, and just we'll try our best. And I'm also praying to Supreme Reality, praying to the Masters to give us more discipline, inner strength, peace, prosperity, and love. Thank you all.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu.
sadhu.
I bow to you all, Jay.
Thank you, Swami. I hope we see you in Seattle.
Sure.
And for those who want, generally we now have a Zoom session where people can join and have a more intimate discussion. I pasted the link into the chat, and if you can't see that for whatever reason, then feel free to go to clearmountainmonastery.org and scroll down to the Wednesday evening live streams, and there should be a Zoom link there. So we hope to see you all there. And Swami, take care, have a wonderful retreat, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Have a nice time.